What's up, guys, and welcome back to a conversation with John. So, today I wanted to talk about The Housemaid. I recently saw this movie and I thought that it was really good. Um, it's like one of the first movies I've seen that has made me want to actually go and read the book. Because a lot of stuff happened in the movie, but I know that there's so much that probably happened. And then from the stuff that people have been seeing online have said, there's a lot that happened in the book that wasn't in the movie, as most books are usually better than the movie. So I definitely want to go back and read the book to kind of see what was left out. But it was really a good movie. I want to say this was a psychological thriller slash mystery or whatever, but it was really good. Um, yeah, it was really good. So I'm gonna give you like a brief synopsis of kind of what the movie is if you never heard about it, and then kind of go deeper into my thoughts. So let's get into it. So introducing our characters. So we have this guy, Brandon Skellner. His name is Andrew Winchester. Then there is Sydney Sweeney, who plays Millie, and then Amanda Seyfried, who plays Nina Winchester. Now, Amanda Seyfried played the shit out of her role. She did an amazing job. She carried a lot of this movie because I've seen people say that Sydney didn't do too well in her acting abilities, and I think I've seen some people say that Brandon didn't either. But yeah, I mean they were okay, but Amanda really played the shit out of her role. I'm gonna say that first and foremost. So just to kind of give a background, so we have the Winchesters, Andrew and Nina, and they need a housemaid, and that's where Millie comes into place. So Millie comes to work for them, and that's kind of when the story takes off and all hell breaks loose. Because before she goes to work with them, like we're coming into the movie, and Millie is going to their house for an interview for the housemaid position, and they have this beautiful, large, elaborate house, and Millie pulls up and she's greeted by Nina, and she welcomes her into the home. She gives her a tour of the house and just kind of gets some background information on her. And just asking her like, oh, she looks at her resume, and Millie has some type of degree or something. She's like, well, you seem overqualified. Like, why do you want to be a housemaid? And she's just like, well, she wants to get back into the city or closer to the city and all this, that, and the third. So they chop it up or whatever. And Millie leaves after Nina tells her she'll let her know she has a few more people to interview. And Millie's like, yeah, I'm never gonna hear from this lady again or see the inside of this house again. But lo and behold, she does get the job. Nina calls her because at this point in time, Millie's like sleeping in her car. And one morning the cops come up to her and ask her, like, ma'am, like, why you can't sleep out here? What are you doing? And she makes up a lie, like she's on her way to her mom's house and she got tired and she just pulled over. And that's when Nina calls her, and she makes up, she's like, oh, this is my mom calling me, I'm gonna leave. She tells the cops, and Nina offers her the job. She asks her when she can come, and she's like, I can start today. Mind you, when Millie toured the house, it was immaculate, it was spotless, it was, like I said, it was a very large, beautiful house when Millie toured the house. When Millie got there for the job, there was shit everywhere, and Nina was, I think there was like Christmas decorations in the living room, and shit was all over the place. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, Nina must be very manic. Like something is going on in this situation. Okay, yeah. And now we go into the spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, go watch it and come back. Because now I'm gonna give a bunch of spoilers. Not too many, but a little bit. So yeah, Nina welcomes her into the house, and she's like, she has to write a speech for the PTA, and then she gives like Millie the cleaning supplies, and tells her to start cleaning up or whatever. So she starts doing that. Later on, Nina shows Millie her room. Millie's room is gonna be in the attic, which is like on the third floor of their house. They have a fucking huge house. And when she goes in there and shows what's her name? Nina shows Millie the room because she's like, this used to like Andrew used to keep his files in there for work or whatever. So she goes to the room. It's like an A-frame room, basically. It's just the bed in there. There's a little closet and there's a mini fridge. And so she walks in there, and then it shows in the scene that Millie looks at the door. And first of all, it locks from the outside. And secondly, there's scratches on the door. And so after they tour the room, Millie is like, "Well, can I have a key to the room?" And Nina was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'll get it to you." In my mind, when I saw it, I was like, "Yeah, that should have been your first sign. Like, girl, this room locks from the outside, and there is scratch marks on the door. So clearly something's going on. And why are there scratch marks on the door? These people ain't got no pet. So what's really going on?" But I see it for what it is. Millie was down on her luck. She needed a job. She was on probation, which is what we come to find out. And she really needed this job because Millie was in jail for 10 years. And through the course of the movie, we find out that Millie was in jail for killing somebody. Like, she got into a fight. She didn't get into a fight. Um, what happened? Like, she was in, I'll get to that later on. But yeah, she was in jail. Um, and so that is why she didn't think Nina was gonna hire her, because she's like, once Nina does a background check, she is not gonna hire me. So that was the first day she moved in. She cleaned up. She started cooking and everything for the family. And Andrew got home with their little girl, Cecilia, I think Cece, whatever the little girl name was. Um, he got home with her, and Millie introduced herself, and Nina came out from her office because she was writing a paper for the PTA, a speech or whatever. And she was like, "Oh, well, Andrew, I told you that I was gonna hire her or whatever." And so, yeah, they ended up having dinner or whatever. And this is when it starts foreshadowing shit. Well, the claw marks on the door was definitely a foreshadowing. I caught that one. And then I heard Cece when she started talking, but it didn't make sense until the end. Millie brought Cece some juice in a glass. And then Cece was like, "I don't want that glass because it's dirty." And Millie was like, "I just took that out the dishwasher. It's not dirty." And she was like, "Well, fine, I'll get you another one." And Cece was like, "Yeah, it's a privilege to have juice," or whatever, or something like that. She would always say stuff like that. It's a privilege to do this, a privilege to do that. And so that comes full circle in the movie towards the end, but building up to the rest of the story. So after the first night, the next day, Millie wakes up. She wakes up late, and she is trying to get out the attic, and the door is stuck. She can't get out. So she's beating on the door trying to get out, and it comes open. And so when she gets downstairs, she starts cooking breakfast and everything like that. And um she sees she's making breakfast or whatever, and Nina comes downstairs and she's like, "Where's my speech at?" And Millie's like, "Well, I don't know. I didn't have it or whatever. You're sure not at the office?" And so I'm sorry, no, Nina starts going crazy. She started breaking dishes and shit and just going fucking berserk. And then Andrew comes out of nowhere and he rescues the day and calms Nina down. And basically Nina's like, well, tells Millie like, "You shouldn't mess with stuff that doesn't belong to you," or something like that. She snaps at her or whatever, and Andrew's just like, and Usher tells Nina to go lay down or some shit, and basically tells Millie like it's okay. She's just like this sometimes or whatever. And at that very moment, I would have been like, yeah, it's time to pack it up. This These claw marks on this door. You're locked in the attic. You can't fucking get out. This bitch is fucking crazy and manic, especially coming into this pristine, clean house, and now it's just shit every fucking where. And now she going off on me for no reason. Like, yeah, we're gonna have to pack this shit the fuck up. This may not be the job for me, because like what, like girl, you just spazzing for no reason. So this course of the movie starts going on, and Nina just starts acting very erratic and very crazy. I remember the next thing that I really just remember was um like Nina told Millie to purchase some tickets to the theater for her and her husband. No, that's when we found out that Millie was on probation because Millie is supposed to be off on Saturdays. So she was trying to go to her probation to see her probation officer, and Nina was like, "Well, where are you going?" She was like, "Well, I'm off on Saturdays. I need to run an errand." And Nina was like, "Well, what errand you got to run?" And so Andrew comes to the rescue. He's like, "Well, don't worry about it. I'm gonna take Cece to the park. We don't need her today, so she's able to go do whatever the fuck she needs to do." Then after that, I think Nina comes in and she tries to apologize. Well, I'm like so sorry for how I was acting or whatever. And but I do need you to like buy some tickets to the theater in the city Saturday night and for me and Andrew or whatever and get us a hotel and you can have time off. So um Millie goes ahead and does that. And I think the next scene was what was the next scene? Oh shit, excuse me. The next scene was then she ends up meeting more people in their lives. She meets some of the other women that are on the PTA. And like Nina goes out the room and they're talking about Nina and how she's basically fucking batshit crazy and how she was in a mental hospital for like 9 months for almost trying to drown Cece. So now Millie's getting more of an idea of like really what's going on. This bitch is just it's fucking certified fucking crazy. And so the next thing that happens was um Nina asks her like why no Nina gives is cleaning out her closet and that's when she apologized. She's like, "Well, I'm sorry for how I've been acting or whatever." And she says that she's cleaning out her closet and she ends up giving Millie some clothes. And she's like, "Well, no, I can't accept that." And Nina's like, "Well, no, just take it, just take it. They're just gonna go to Goodwill or whatever." So Millie ends up taking the clothes. And then another crazy thing that happens, which should have been another sign to Millie, like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, again, she's in the fucking attic, but she hears yelling in the house. And so she goes downstairs and she hears screaming from Nina and Andrew's room. And she starts being like, "Andrew, are you okay? Are you okay?" And Nina comes to the door with a shard of glass in her hand. Her hand is covered in blood. And she's like, "Where's Andrew? Where's Andrew?" I don't remember what Nina says. And then Andrew comes up and hands her a towel and takes the glass from her. And he's like, basically, like, everything's okay. And yeah, after all of that, Millie should have been ready to go. And I think she did call her friend and was like, "Well, look," her friend worked at a restaurant somewhere. She was like, "Yeah, I got to get the fuck away from here." And so, um, yeah. So Millie books the tickets, Nina offers her the clothes, and I think a day or so passes. And so Nina, in her sporadic ass behavior again, confronts Millie about purchasing the tickets. She's like, "Well, why did you purchase these tickets? Um, I have to take Cece into the city that day, or take her somewhere to a fucking camp or something." And she was like, "You told me to do that." She's like, "No, I didn't tell you to do that. Why would I tell you to do that when I have to take Cece and you're gonna have to pay for these tickets?" And she's like, "I can't afford that. Like all the money I've saved, like that'll be everything. I can't afford that." She's like, "Well, basically, I don't care. You're gonna have to pay for this shit." And so Andrew just pops up and was like, "No, you're not gonna have to pay for that. It's okay." Um, he's like, "I'll try to get our money back." And he also told Nina that before she ran her house in the house, like, we can just cancel the ticket and get our money back from the credit card company. And Nina was like, "That's not something that you can do." And so that's when he was like, when she went in the house, he was like, "Millie, I'll get the money back. Don't worry about it." So Nina ends up taking Cece the off to the city or whatever, off to a camp or whatever. And so left in the house are Andrew and Nina, and Andrew and Millie rather. And yeah, left in the house are Andrew and Millie. And so Andrew tells Millie, like, "Look, I couldn't get the money back, but go ahead and go into the city and enjoy yourself. Go see the play, take a friend or whatever with you." And Millie is like, "Well, I don't have anybody to go with." And Andrew's like, "Well, basically, like, I'll go with you." and they agree to go into the city to watch the movie. Now, mind you, I told myself when Nina gave Millie them fucking clothes, I'm like, girl, this bitch is already acting fucking crazy. Do not wear them damn clothes, because if you wear them clothes, this bitch is gonna probably flip the fuck out on you. That was my thoughts when she gave her them clothes. And so the night that they have to go to the theater, Millie, it's like a pretty white dress, and obviously these people are rich, so it's extremely expensive. Millie couldn't afford it, but that's the only thing, nice clothes she had to wear to the theater, so that's what she wore. Mind you, before this, she's already having fantasies about Andrew. So I'm just like, girl, you going to the theater with this man, like stranger danger. Like, you already dreaming about this man, and you telling yourself, yeah, I can't lose this job. Why are you even entertaining this man? So they ended up going to the theater or whatever, and they ended up having like drinks or whatever after the theater. They went to dinner, and they was both too drunk to go back to drive back to the house, because they lived outside of the city in New York or whatever. So they were both too drunk. So Andrew got them hotel room, and I thought that they was gonna be in the same hotel room, because it was only one hotel room originally when Nina booked the stuff. But he ended up getting his own hotel room, and she ended up getting her own hotel room. Well, in the middle of the night, Nina starts calling and texting and all sporadically and stuff like that. And she said a bunch of shit to Millie in the text message. I don't remember what they said, but Nina ended up going to knock on Andrew's door and showing him the messages, and just like I can't lose this job. I can't lose this job. I think Nina was like, you're fired or something like that. And Andrew was like, look, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And he starts comforting her, and they end up fucking. And at this point, I'm just like, okay, this has to be a fucking setup, because before this happened, we find out that Nina can't have kids. Like, she has Cece, but Cece is not Andrew's kid, and so Andrew really wants a kid. And so I'm thinking, like, okay, this has got to be a setup. Like, Nina can't have kids, and I'm feeling like, okay, Andrew and Nina must be in on this together, in cahoots of trying to make Millie feel like Andrew wants her and get her pregnant, and they gonna end up taking the baby. That's what my whole thoughts is on this whole situation, because you got the fucking addict that they can lock her ass in. So I'm thinking, okay, they gonna like lock her ass in this attic and make her have this baby and end up killing her, or some shit like that. That's where my mind is during this whole thing. But boy, was I fucking wrong. So they end up fucking or whatever, and decide like, we got to get back home before Nina gets home. And they both agree like, we can't say anything about this. Like, Nina can never figure this out. So they go back home or whatever before Nina gets there, and they end up fucking again. And so by the time Nina gets home, um Millie is in the kitchen cooking or whatever, and Nina was like, "Oh, I'm just so sorry about how I was acting or whatever. I get kind of crazy when I'm alone in hotels and shit like that." So they pass it off. So Nina goes ahead and gets herself situated, and Millie starts preparing dinner. So that night at dinner, um what is it? Andrew invites Millie to have dinner with them or whatever, and that's when Nina is like, oh well, she basically lets it be known that she knows that Millie was in jail for 10 years and for murder. And the thing about Millie being in jail for 10 years for murder, it was because she was trying to help this girl that she was in boarding school with. Like, the girl was being raped, and she took like a vase or something, and she hit the dude over the head, and she kept hitting him until she killed him. But the girl didn't say anything to defend Millie. She act like it was just Millie being crazy or whatever. So Millie was in jail for 10 years, and she got out, and she was going to be on parole for 5 years. And so that's why she just had to take the job. Like, she didn't have a choice but to be there, because otherwise, like, she just didn't have a choice. And so Nina knew that. And that's why I was just like, yeah, that's why I also felt like that at that point, that Nina knew that Millie had nowhere to go. That's why I thought that they was in cahoots with this shit together to get this make this girl have this fucking baby because Nina couldn't have fucking kids. And so after that, I think that like she ends up telling Andrew that she's sorry or whatever, and he's like, "Well, no, don't worry about it or whatever. I mean, I understand," or something like that. And so what happens next is, um, Nina ends up. What happens? Nina ends up confronting them because she ends up letting them know that she knows that they went to the city together and saw that play, and she knows also that they was fucking because when Millie first starts working there, they give her a cell phone, and one of the like one of the moms in the PTA. Oh, that's what happened. So we find out that let me backboard. Okay, so after the whole incident and Nina says that, oh bitch, I know you was in fucking jail. And they're at dinner. She's like, I need you to run some errands or whatever, but take my car because your car is starting to be an embarrassment. It's making me look bad. And she gives her a whole list of shit to get from the grocery store because Cece is coming back from her camp and she needs snacks and a bunch of shit. So Millie ends up going to the store. And while she's at the store, she runs into one of the moms at the PTA. And she was like, she sees Millie's phone. She's like, oh, is that the new iPhone? She's like, yeah. She's like, oh, I bet it has such a great camera. And Millie's like, well, I don't know. I just use it for work. It's a work phone. And she was like, oh, I'm surprised you took it. And she was like, well, why? She's like, well, most of the housemaids don't take the phone or whatever because basically when she starts figuring out like everything that's done on that phone, like Nina knows. So and then she knows that Nina knows that her and Andrew was fucking and they went to this play together. But I don't remember them texting or anything, but Nina knew. So by the time Millie gets out of the store, she goes to get in the car. Here come the police swarming her, and they're like answering questions or whatever. Basically, the car was reported stolen. So it's just like, damn, Nina, you reported your car stolen on this girl. Like, this bitch is fucking crazy. And so, um, yeah, Andrew ends up coming and rescue her, and that's when they get back and he ends up telling Millie ends up telling Andrew, like, okay, Nina knows. And he's like, yeah, I know that she knows. So when they get back to the house, Nina confronts them and she's like, well, yeah, I know that y'all went to the play and I know that y'all was fucking or whatever. And they get into it, and basically Andrew like makes her leave. She's like, you can't kick me out. This is my house. He's like, no, this is actually my house. Because it was his house. And so then we go into Nina leaving. She has a fucking meltdown in her car, starts screaming and shit. And then we cut to Andrew and Millie, and they start fucking all over the goddamn house. And so yeah, they in their little honeymoon phase or whatever. And the next morning, Millie is start making breakfast or whatever, and she ends up turning around and she drops a tray that she has china on that she got from Andrew's mom. Andrew's mom gave Andrew and Nina some of her china because she's downsizing her house. And so she turned around and she saw the gardener outside and she drops the china and it ends up breaking. So Andrew confronts the gardener, which is another thing. People were saying that the gardener's name is Enzo or something like that, that he had a bigger part to play in the book, which is another reason why I wanted to read the book. He had a bit because his part in the movie really wasn't much. Like he was just wandering around looking fucking creepy. And him and Nina had a little bit of conversation, but it really wasn't nothing. And Nina always told Millie to stay the fuck away from Enzo or whatever. So when she saw him, it startled her. And there comes Andrew, and he was like, well, basically, you're fired. Get the fuck away from here. And so this is when everything starts turning. Andrew is like, he tells Millie to basically don't throw the plate away, to save the pieces because he has a plate guy and the guy can fix it. And I'm just like, A plate guy? What the fuck does that mean? And you got somebody that's gonna put together all these pieces of china that broke? Like, what the fuck? So he ended up grabbing a bottle of wine and champagne, and they ended up going upstairs to fuck. Now, mind you, these people have a big ass house, and he carries Millie up 3 flights of stairs to go fuck in the room. And I'm just like thinking about like, girl, why would you let him take you in there? This big ass house, yo. I already been fucking all over the place. Why you let him bring you in the fucking attic? Like, that don't make no fucking sense. And she wakes up in the morning and her ass is locked in the fucking attic. And she starts knocking on the door. It's like, Andrew, let me out. And he's like, no, I can't let you out. Um, he was like, he's mad about the fucking plate. He was like, you broke the plate and then you didn't even clean it off. But it's also like, sir, I broke the plate. You wanted me to clean off the broken china. He said, well, I didn't want to cut myself. He was like, well, I don't remember what he said, but basically he slides a piece of the china under the door and tells her that she needs to cut 21 slashes in her stomach. Um 21 slashes in her stomach and make sure they're long and deep. And if she does it wrong, she's gonna have to start again. And she's like, are you fucking serious? He's like, yeah. And when you're done, slide the plate, the pizza china under the door. And so that's when we go back to Nina. And now it all starts making sense. Nina wasn't the fucking crazy one. It was fucking Andrew the whole goddamn time. Basically, Nina got pregnant with Cece by one of her professors. She was in law school, and she ended up getting a job at some type of somewhere at a I don't remember where. She ended up getting a job somewhere, and that's how she met Andrew's ass. And basically, he just swept her off her feet or whatever, and they ended up dating for a short amount of time, and they ended up getting married. And she didn't have to work anymore. All she had to do was be a fucking housewife. And the house they lived in was a house that he had built for his previous wife, but something happened to her, and Nina never really asked any questions about it. It was just she was living in a fucking fairy tale. This extremely charming man who's extremely wealthy swept her off her feet, loves her daughter, and like this is a damn fairy tale. So she's living in La La Land or whatever until this motherfucker switches on her. So one day she comes home, he comes home, and she's like, oh, he's like, oh, babe, your roots are kind of dark. She was like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go get them done. I have an appointment in the city. So he goes to work, whatever life happens, and she comes home, and he it's like he comments again. It's like, oh, your roots. He's like, well, yeah, I got busy trying to do stuff. I didn't have time, but I have to reschedule my appointment. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, yeah, I need some paperwork out the attic. Can you help me find it? And she's like, yeah, sure, babe. And so she goes up into the attic, starts walking up the stairs, goes to the attic. She's like, I'll be right there behind you. And so she goes into the attic, she looks into the file cabinet, but there's nothing in there. And so he closes the door and locks her in there. And he's like, well, basically, he's like something of like hair is a privilege or something like that, and you got to take care of it, which was foreshadowed from Cece. That's where she get this shit from, stuff being a fucking privilege about drinking out the cups and stuff. So he's like, the hair is a privilege, and you got to take care of it. And so he makes her pull 100 hairs out her head along with the follicle in order to let her get out the room. And he hands her an envelope to put the hairs in. And that's the only way that she's going to get the fuck out the room. And so she's sitting there crying, like, Andrew, let me out, let me out. He's like, no, once you do that, I'll let you out. And then we can discuss how we go forward. So she's sitting there crying and distraught and has to pull all these fucking hairs out her head. And she gives them to him. And then he's like, he takes them, but then he's like, well, let's first of all say this. To pull out 100 strands of your hair, because she had long blonde hair, to pull out 100 strands of your hair and keep track of as you count them, along with having the follicle attached to them, is fucking crazy work. Okay. And so when he comes back and he sits there and counts all of them, he's like, um, 99 of them were good, but one of them didn't have the follicle attached. So I need you to do it again. Sir, again, you need me to pull another 100 hairs out my head again. So of course she has to do it again. And she was trapped in the attic for fucking some days, I want to say. And so when she gets out the attic, she runs downstairs to check on Cece, and that's when he starts tormenting her. And that's how she got locked in the fucking crazy facility. He ended up no, when she got out the fucking attic, he brought her a bottle of water and she drank the water and she ran out because she was dehydrated. She was thirsty. All she had was some 3 bottles of water that was in the mini fridge, and that was it. And there was no bathroom in the attic. It was a bucket, all she could use to pee in. And so she was dehydrated. He handed her a bottle of water, and she ran downstairs to check on Cece, and after that she got kind of drowsy or whatever, and when she woke up she was in the bathroom and Cece was in the water, and he came running in right then, and so did the paramedics, because what had happened was and that's the story that um Millie had found out why Nina was in the fucking mental institution, because he tried to draw her daughter, when actually it was fucking Andrew's ass. He set her up, which sent her to the fucking mental facility. So from that moment on, she knew that there was no way that she can escape from Andrew. He was fucking crazy, but nobody was ever going to believe her. He was a charming guy with beautiful teeth, because that was his whole thing, having beautiful teeth. And his mom was obsessed about his teeth too. Like, the bitch was, all of them was fucking crazy. Having these beautiful teeth and such a nice smile. He was a charming guy. And people was just gonna think like, well, he's just standing beside his crazy wife. And Nina had to realize, like, I'm not gonna get out this mental facility until I just play along and pretend to be crazy and accept the fact that, or make them people believe that this was my fault. So that's the way that she got out the mental facility. So then she started plotting, because Andrew really wanted a child. And so she snuck back into the city and got on birth control, because she was like, ain't no way I'm about to have a baby with this crazy motherfucker. So she knew that he was obsessed with having a kid, and she knew that the only way to get out of this marriage was to make him leave her. So that's when she started plotting. And that's how Millie got into the whole situation. Um, she started, yeah, that's how Millie got into the whole situation. She had to get Andrew to like somebody else. So that's when she started hired Millie and started doing all this crazy shit. And she knew that Millie was just Andrew's type. So she set this whole situation up with the movies, not the movies, the play and all that, because she knew that they was gonna end up fucking. And so cut back to her screaming when she got kicked out the house. She was actually laughing because she was so happy. She went to go get Cece, and they was about to go off and live they lives or whatever. And that's when Andrew started tormenting Millie's ass and making her cut herself and all of that. And so Nina was telling Cece, like, we're about to go somewhere else and live somewhere else. And Cece was like, well, no, we can't leave Millie there. And so I guess Nina felt bad, so she decided to go back for Millie. But at the same time, in the room, that in the attic, after yeah, I don't know at what point Nina left. It was a knife in the closet. Um Nina left the knife in there. So when Andrew came back in the room after Millie had cut herself, she was laying on the ground. And Andrew came in there and he was leaning over her. And I think he picked her up and she grabbed the knife and she stabbed him in the neck. And she kicked him and ran out the room and locked his ass in there. And so he was like, let me out, let me out. And she was like, no, I'm not gonna let you out. And so she got her her get back because she went downstairs and got all that damn china that his mother loved so much, and apparently he loved so much because he used to eat off it when he was a kid. And she brought it upstairs and she told him, she handed him some pliers under the door. She was like, pull out your teeth. And he was like, no, I'm not pulling out my front tooth. She was like, okay, well, I'll leave you in here. And she started breaking the china. He was like, no, no. And she was like, I'm going to do it. So he ended up pulling out his front tooth because he was so obsessed about his smile, because that was what made people like him so much as well. And he ended up pulling out the tooth and sliding under the door. She was like, okay, well, I'll just come back and let you out tomorrow. So she went downstairs and she was watching TV or whatever. And so Nina ended up coming back, and this is at nighttime. And so she didn't know that Millie wasn't in there. And so she went upstairs to let Millie out, and Millie heard something, and she went upstairs and she called Nina as she was unlocking the door. She was like, Nina, what the fuck are you doing? And then out the room came Andrew, and he ended up attacking Millie, and she ended up having to fight for her life and running out the door. And he thought that she got away, and so he came back in the house and he ended up talking to Nina or whatever, and conversation ensued, and they ended up knocking his ass off the fucking balcony and killing him. And that was that. He was dead, and that was the end of the story. And so Nina was like, you need to leave. And she was like, the cops are not going to believe that he killed himself. And she's like, well, there's only one way to find out, but you need to get out of there. So the cops bought it because the detective Nina was talking to ended up being the sister of Andrew's first wife. And she was like, yeah, I remember my sister leaving this house and she's never been the same since. And so Andrew's dead and they have the funeral or whatever. And his crazy ass mama was like, I noticed, the police told me that Andrew was missing his teeth. And did you notice that? And Nina was like, well, no. And she kept going on about how teeth were a privilege and you have to take care of them. And it's just like, but lady, like, what? Your son just died and we're at his funeral and you talking about teeth being a privilege and all this, that, and the third. The bitch was fucking crazy. And so then Nina and Cece are moving to California. They're gonna end up selling the house, and she ends up giving Millie a check for $100,000 and telling her to go live her life or whatever. And in the next scene, Millie ends up going to go be a housemaid for another family. And the woman of the house is like, well, yeah, Nina highly recommended you. And she ends up telling her about her husband. And you can see on the woman's arm that there's a bruise. So I'm guessing that Millie is going to be the rescuer, Captain Saberhold, to this woman too, and probably help her kill her husband. Because I think that there is going to be another movie. I think they greenlit another movie, which I hope they do because it was good. But yeah, that was the movie. It was good. And if you see the movie, like in their living room, they have this chandelier. I heard, which is another reason why I want to read the book. It's like it has like long, like what looked like, I guess, hairs coming down from it. One of the people I saw online was like, yeah, that was Nina's hair. Like it was like hair coming down. Well, when you first look at it, I don't know what to say. Maybe it would look like yarn or something like that, whatever. But somebody was like, that was Nina's hair hanging from the chandelier. It was like an artsy kind of thing. And I'm just like, this man really made this girl pull out all her hair, probably multiple times doing it, and probably his first wife too, to get all the hair in the chandelier. So yeah, it made me want to go back and watch it. But the movie was really good. All in all, I definitely want to go back and read the book to, like I said, to figure out what more happened. Apparently, there was something to do with some peanut butter in one of the scenes. The man was very cruel, and it was just, I'm sure there was a lot of shit that happened, but overall, it was a really good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, Amanda Seyfried, she played the shit out of her role. Um, the other two people, they did they all right, but Amanda Seyfried really played. I won't be surprised if she get nominated for some award for the role because she did a really good job. And overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. So yeah, if you have seen it, let me know what you think. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Come back, and let me know what you think. And this has been a conversation with John. Until next time, peace.